hello, world. I'm Benito Childs. You're watching the UHIH1 Media Network team. Thank you for joining us.
Both your numbers.
Yeah, most definitely. Because we just talked about that. Cause we have a lot of artists. I sat with RJ Fox on the Fallen Funkadelic in his yard. He was like, "Dude, you want to hit the joint? Let me get out now." I'm like, "We just meeting in person, dude. I don't want to smoke right now, but I know some." Well, Ben was like, "Yo, where that's what they do. That calms them down, gets them mellow."
Well, because you'll hear it. You'll hear a lot of people talk about it for medical reasons, and I don't know a lot about marijuana, but even when you study in college, but Gigi just educated me this morning on have a more understanding of it than I had before, and so I definitely, as a therapist, I am not, I refuse to be in this field and be judgmental. I want to understand people's needs and be able to educate them on whatever I need to educate them on. We froze up just a little. Okay. So the more, like Gigi said, Rhonda, the more educated you are on something, and we were both thinking at the same time, the more knowledge I have, then the more I can pass on. Because the things that she was talking about this morning for people healing and things like that, I want to have an understanding. So if somebody's talking to me about it and they're like, well, this is what I'm going to do, I can say, hey, let me send you somewhere let me give you some information that will help you to be educated about what you're saying. You know what I mean?
That said, in your current field as a professional therapist,
we on, man. We are on.
And that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Ayurvedic medicine, is it considered an acceptable blend with your practice and methodology in the industry today?
I don't think I can't answer for other therapists, but I think as a whole, in the field of therapy, that we're open. I can say for me, I don't know that all therapists are open. Gigi and I were just talking about this to understanding people on and issues, whether it's not about whether I agree with what somebody says. It's about having a better understanding of what issues are going on so that I can get to the core and help them in the best way, but also meet their understanding and meet their needs. Do you know what I mean? Like if somebody says, hey, and of course, I'm not talking about personal clients now, personal patients now, but I'm saying if somebody said, if you came to me, Bill, and you were like, hey, Rhonda, what do you think? I do this and I do that. And I do this for anxiety. Because you guys know, both of you know, people are looking for a healing. They're looking they're looking for peace.
And not to cut you off, quite a few people are looking for a fix.
A fix.
They have
seriously
crossed the line with self-maintenance and total numbness and inebriation as a coping mechanism, pretty much just as a triggered autonomous reaction, to what we're dealing with in society today. That said, coming back to, we were having a conversation about marijuana, weed, cannabis, hemp. Is it called anything else? No, I think we're good with that. Yeah. No, there's tetrahydrochloride cannabinol. That's what it's called. When it's pressed into a liquid.
Mm-hmm. She hasn't left yet. She's like, it
has a scientific name. Yes. I remember back in my early days in Berkeley, they had a vial, and this was the sacred vial, and it looked like something that you needed James Bond and Shaft to go get this for you, okay? And bring it back in the briefcase,
Wow.
you know, with security and shoulder holsters, because they have brought you 100% tetrahydrochloride cannabinol. Okay. And this was the very early age of experimentation. Now, this is right after the professor of psychology at Berkeley University, Cal State Berkeley, stood on the so-called porch, passed out LSD, and told students of the psych department to tune in, turn on, and drop out.
Yeah, and drop out. Yeah.
Okay.
Timothy Leary, right?
Yes,
Timothy Leary,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Timothy Leary, Professor Timothy Leary, head of the psych department. Okay.
Yep.
Now I'm just a young man when this is happening, but I'm inquisitive as all hell. I might be 14 when I find out about this, and I'm just curious as all hell. And I'm from that area of the Bay Area where it's the Berkeley-Oakland borderline. So you got people over here at the campus making drugs, okay? And this is during the period of time where if you were studying avionics, you could be found outside on the lawn passing the Frisbee, playing Frisbee, yes, because, you know, it's an aerodynamic device we're studying, yes. That's to say that as a society, we've been trying to figure out something that's gonna make you feel better, okay, for a long time. Now that said, of course, part of what we do is talk to musicians about the music business here on, you heard it here first, on the overall, but because Rhonda Clarke is in the therapeutic healing field at this point in her journey, as well as being an accomplished musician and entertainer, songwriter. Okay, what we want to talk about from your perspective, because you're one of us. You're just as much as a musician. You've been out on the road. You know what happens. You see how people treat themselves. You see how people treat each other. And you know how fast that your life can go from 1 to 60, 60 being, oops, this is really bad. And the things that people will do, okay, as a recovery mechanism or as a triggered reaction, a byproduct of the experience that they're having.
Yeah.
That's
self-medicating.
Absolutely. Now, everything that I've read, everything that pops up on my screen when I go and I look at the news on the internet says that the opiate use in the United States statistically is through the roof.
Through the roof. It is.
Now,
it certainly is.
The question then becomes, for me, in other words, for me, I'm sitting in front of a professional therapist. Well, that's what she does, help people solve their problems. Just let her know what's on your mind. Okay, so here's what's on my mind. Well, if that's what everybody's doing, and we still having an argument as to whether or not the plant out of the ground should be allowed to you without you having to feel as though perhaps you have transgressed the law. Okay. A lot of us want to say, well, now wait a minute, stick with what God gave you. If you don't have to stick it in the pot, crush it up, mix it up with a whole bunch of other stuff, okay, cover it in plastic and stick it in some cellophane and back it with cardboard and hang it on a knob, you know what? If it came out the ground, it might be the real thing.
Yeah.
Now, that said, because of course in our industry, we've always been cutting edge. I remember all the musicians deciding that, you know what, there's this new group. Yeah, it's natural. It came out the ground. Well, what's it gonna do for you? Make you feel like you took a number 5 Valium. Well, what is it called? Valerian. Valerian out of the ground. Yeah. Take a cup of tea or a glass of hot water, take 2 tablets of valerian, crushed up herbs from out of the ground. I've seen this. And you're asleep.
Mm-hmm. Because
Okay.
you know, yeah, because people are looking for that healing, like you said, you know, people are. You know,
So
people.
the question is, when and what do we do when we decide then that, you know what, just being numb, that ain't getting it.
Not at
I
all.
want my joy back. I want my happiness back. I want bright rays of sunshine. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
rainbows, butterflies flitting across the screen,
Right.
and Bambi peeking out at you from behind the tree. Okay, now
and a cloud, right?
Exactly. I want all of that, and I'm all out of dough. What can I do to cope, given that things do not look bright and rosy for a lot of us? In other words, what I'm saying currently is the only way you're going to be happy is stop looking for happiness to be a byproduct of your experience. You just have to choose to be happy.
So true.
Some kind of high.
Yes.
In the middle of everything, you have to decide that, you know what, I'm just going to make a decision to be happy because I am blessed and gifted with the ability to make a choice to decide that happiness is going to be my point of reference. However, I look around, I have nothing to be happy about. Now, what do we do? That's just a point blank question.
So you know what? So okay, so coming from an entertainer and therapist all mixed in, I think Gigi and I were talking. I practice a little differently, not saying I confirm or condone anything that, you know, with drug use. You know, that's not for me to do. And that's the one thing I don't do. It's not like if somebody comes to me and says, hey, you know, I'm going to come to you as a new patient and this is what I do. I'm going to work with them wherever they are because of what you said. I don't, you know, yeah, the fantasy looks like, can we really have the roses floating on the cloud, butterflies everywhere? We can't have that internal piece because the first thing is what you said. People are looking for that healing, but I just want to have some peace. I want to have that internal peace. First and foremost, that has to be established, and that decision that you're talking about. Can I be happy outside of in a relationship with this guy or you know, relationship, whatever relationship you have, outside of family, outside of friends, outside of mom and dad, outside. I need that internal happiness that really comes from me. You know, I could say from God, everybody may not have the same thinking, but I mean that internal peace that I don't care if you pick up a glass of wine, marijuana, opioids, that it really does not give you that internal peace that you really need for lifelong, healthy, sufficient living. The other thing is, I get what you're saying. We have an opioid addiction in the universe, basically, period. And now they've come out with marijuana being legal, and you have the arguments of both sides. The deal is that the more people are educated, the better this is what I believe, the better we'll have a better functioning society. People need to be educated. You spoke with Gigi earlier before the show, and she is very educated on a lot of these topics. And that's the key, getting people to where no matter what's going on, because now we know marijuana is legal, right? So, but it's many forms, as she was talking about earlier, that people are I don't even know. You know, as a therapist, I don't know a great deal about the uses, the medical uses of it, but I'm learning, and I like being educated.
I have decided to become, I like these words, an aficionado and a connoisseur Okay.
I love you. You know.
So what I can tell you from my hands-on acquired experience, okay, is that, and I did some studying, okay, the difference between pharmaceutical drugs and what comes out of the ground, okay.
Mhm.
Everybody's been pushing all natural, all natural, all natural. Okay, so then why was marijuana illegal to begin with?
Okay,
Okay,
I get what you're saying. Because
it was illegal because they already knew at a United States federal government, Department of the Interior, Department of the General Office of Accounting level, that kind of they already knew, okay, that what cannabis is composed of, okay, it's a multi-use plant, okay.
mhm.
You can make paper out of it. You can make clothing, okay. Now, the people who printed newspapers, they needed to chop down some trees and keep some, Paul Bunyan types rolling. They already had their thing going, so they did not want marijuana to be part of what could be industrialized or sold freely because they were in the paper milling business and they also sold newspapers. So, according to our research, they were the ones who put up the most money to keep weed illegal. And they
Wow.
were in the media business. Yes.
Wow.
So they had the ability to create that programming that's weed, the crossover. What was it? What's the word? A doorway drug or something like that. One puff of
Gateway.
weed and the next to get yes,
Gateway.
yes. So that film that they showed you in the 8th grade back in junior high school is, and they had you everybody in the gym, and they're giving you the conversation about the evils of marijuana and the scenes that they show you. I really, you didn't experience this as a young person, I take it.
I was educated in school. I've never had any bouts with drugs. I mean, and
Oh
that,
no,
and
no,
but
no.
see,
This
but
was
see,
part of the regular curriculum where
oh
I
yeah,
was in
no. I
Northern
was educated.
California.
I thought you were asking if I've ever like experienced. No, yes, I was. Yes, I was educated. Do you know what? Let me tell you something. My mother educated us on a lot of things too, even before school, because she would teach us about things, even when it came to things like Black history. Some of the things that were not being taught. My mother was like, "Hey, I got you a book on this. I'm going to teach you guys about this." So yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So no matter what drug it was, or even on sex education. I mean, she would put stuff, and this is so funny. She would put stuff on the refrigerator, pictures of what diseases look like. I'm serious. Like my mother worked in the
The
mental health field
visual
too. She would.
deterrent. Right as you're reaching for something to eat, here's some information for you. I'm
Here's
gonna
some
just leave
information,
this
by
here
the
for
way.
you on the refrigerator door.
While you getting that apple and that orange or some food in there, I
That's
want you
funny.
to look at this is the drugs, this is the sex, this is what. And she wasn't,
Wow.
she wasn't harsh about it. But she would, she would educate us. So yeah, of course we learned we had, films and things in high school. But I'm a girl with all brothers. So even though Rhonda was sheltered, I have all brothers. I'll just say that. So let's just let's just say they had their hands.
Yes.
They had their hands in the pot of a lot of things,
Yes.
But now, I think like this morning when Gigi came over, I'll tell you, she came, in case anybody's listening, she's my personal makeup artist and family, like a sister, and this is something she's doing, and she was just educating on the healing parts of it, what I like is being educated. I like being educated because as therapists, if we come into this field with all these judgments, how can we help anybody? People are looking for happiness and a healing. Now, I'm not condoning, I'm not saying somebody go out in the world, go get opiates. No, I don't want anybody, ODing. I don't want anybody, you know, doing what you said, lighting up something, putting some aluminum foil. What I want though is for people to be educated enough. And since, listen, we have marijuana that's now legal, why not allow people to have all the education they have about, you know, that's out there to be informed?
Well, in that we're having a conversation about the legalization of cannabis. Well, now the question then becomes, since it is now federally regulated, again, this is just a question, okay? It's not an accusation, it's not an allegation, it's an observation, okay? When I worked part-time summers unloading the boats down at the shoreline in Southern California, they had guys out there from the federal government testing how much sugar was in the fruit that we were bringing off the boat. Now, how much sugar determined what stores got what.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Wow.
And of course, the original reason for why are you testing the sugar content instead of just tasting it, they actually had like, you know, scientific equipment. We're going to measure the sugar content in this particular piece of fruit. Now, if it's at this level, then it goes to these stores. If it's at this level, it goes to those stores. Now, if it's at this level, it goes down here where they make wine out of this. Now, if this is what is going on in the agricultural industry with the food that you eat versus the food that gets turned into something that you consume, okay, what is going on with our weed? If you need a license from the United States federal government, Department of Interior, to grow the weed, and the people come and tell you, well, we'll give you the seeds, you'll be growing the weed that's federally approved. Now, what exactly is that? Now, here's why I went there, because this is my real footnote, if you will. I propose a concept that your personal chef who comes to your house to cook for you because we can't go anywhere with COVID-19, I would more choose to have somebody come to my house who's a professional culinary artiste, and they brought the weed that they grew, okay? So they know what's in it. They didn't go to the pharmacy. They got a license to grow weed, okay?
So you heard what Gigi was talking about earlier.
They're not only my chef, they're my weedologist too. And they brought the weed with them and they put it in the food at my house and fed me. This could turn into something. Why? Because the marijuana strains that are available are from A to Z. And they are designed now for specific things. I went with a friend into the pharmacy and they have a screen about the size of this television screen that's behind me, okay, that has on it, and it's hanging out the ceiling, and it has on it the molecular breakdown of the kind of weed you need if your problem stems from repetitive motion. And then underneath that, it says, you know, drummers and guitar players and keyboard players.
No, it doesn't, does it?
Yes, it does.
Oh my God.
We know what y'all looking for.
Wow.
You've been doing this for 30 years and you need to make it look and sound like, you know, I just got excited about this last week, man.
Well, you know, I want to jump into 1 minute too. You know, I know that there are some good medical treatments as far as for mental health, you know, pharmaceuticals that work. And I know it's still a struggle. The thing is, it is still a struggle with balancing those pharmaceuticals for anxiety, anti-anxiety medications, antidepressants medications, antipsychotic medications. And that is still a field that's still, that, you know, the pharmaceuticals there, they're still very much being studied because of the side effects, which, you know, they're good. But when I say good, I mean, they work for some people and some people, they have more of a struggle with it. Now, again, I want everybody to know I'm not talking about my personal patients or anything. I'm just talking in general. But for that reason, many, many times people are searching because, you know, everybody, and then you got to think, everybody's not going to see a therapist. Some people are not looking just, okay, I just want to sit here and I want to do drugs now. A lot of times people are sitting thinking, I just want to feel better. It's like what you said earlier. I want to feel better. I don't want to be anxious. I don't want to feel depressed. Okay, XYZ is going on in my life, but if I can have something to help me to relax my mind and feel better. So now we have a society of, yes, we do have a very, very, we already know, you know, opioid addiction is the numbers probably still in, I haven't even recently looked at the research on that, but I know we have signs up all over Michigan, or we did, with people who have died from opioid use.
Well, I mean,
so
when you think about that, as not to cut you off, but when you think about it from an observational standpoint, with what would appear to be some level of inclusion, okay, on a worldwide level, man has been achieving the consumption of anything to inebriate him over a long period of time, to the point where it begins to look like it is part of the social economic infrastructure. It's part of conscious social programming at political programming, who gets what money and for what, when do they get it, what is it earmarked for? Because in other words, what I'm saying is at the end of the day, it looks like a whole bunch of, you know what, we just give everybody what's gonna make them feel better, okay? Get everybody stoned out their mind and then tell them that they're screwed.
Yeah.
Right. So hey, I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, coming from a child who had an addicted mother.
Okay.
And talking to her about certain reasons why she did those things.
Yeah.
And referencing what you just said, why do you think it has progressed into I just want to feel better versus I want to escape what's going on from before?
I think as a professional therapist, I think people are learning that the escape is kind of, I don't want to say false, but people are learning. I think from what I'm learning as a therapist, just in general, that people know that there is no total escape. I think people are learning that there is no escape, or at some point they recognize that there is no escaping from everyday life. So the escape that you might hear on the news is somebody OD'd, right? My son shows me a couple days ago, he, I can't think of the rapper now, but my 21-year-old, he lets me hear this rapper who's amazing. And I guess he died earlier this year. My heart was broken. He was 20 years old. Opioid.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I think it was opioid. I wish I had his name, because I looked at this kid and my son is like, Mom, you got to hear him. He is awesome. And I mean, this boy is rapping about his struggles in his song. I'm going to have to text you guys this, because you might want to even talk about it in one of your next shows. But he's in this song calling out for help. He's talking about his mind and talking about the struggles he's with. He knows it's not right to use what the drugs he's using, but he's calling out for help. He knows it's a danger to this. And I don't know if it was, well, what type of drugs it was. I can't remember, but he OD'd from it. So the escape, you know, nobody, unless it's suicidal thinking, suicidal ideation, nobody is waking up saying, you know what, I just want to get high today and just kill myself. They're waking up, a lot of times, and I can't say what people are thinking, you know, per se, but in general, people, as a human, we want to be happy. We want to have that internal peace. And when your mom, I'm happy that you talked to your mom about the things that you do, because it may give you a better understanding of what she went through, or what experiences in her life caused her to even want to self-medicate whatever pain or whatever issues in her life. Every child that comes from a home doesn't always come from parents who have addictions either. We're
Right.
individualized. And so we are all seeking happiness, right? That joy, that peace, you know, and the escape is one fashion of it. Hey, I just want to escape this pain. But the truth is, most humans, and I won't say most, as humans, we recognize that you escape it for how long? A few minutes, an hour. But the truth is, reality sets back in. So then it's that, okay, well, if I can just feel better, if I can just have some peace, you know, I may not be able to escape, but for a whole hour, but then that's the consistency in continuing to use. I can't escape it, but if I use it here or there, then I'll feel better, you know? So I don't know that it's a huge difference in the escape. I want to feel better, but I think it's interconnected because it's intertwined, because you recognize that the only way to escape truly is not to be here. And I'm happy that people don't think that, because somebody told me one time, if somebody could trade places with you from the grave, they would, right? That's a huge saying. And I keep that in my mind when I'm talking to people, and I use that to explain, you know, is it that you don't want to be here? Is it that you want to die? Or is it that you just don't want this situation to continue? What you'll hear in general from people is, many times, if they're not suicidal ideations there, it's, I just don't want to be here because I want this to change. And since this hasn't changed, then I want to change it. At least if I can feel better and deal with it in a day, then maybe I'll be better, which we know that doesn't really last. So the difference is, escape is like, take me away and it doesn't have to come back again. But the truth is, people are recognizing that there's no real escape from the reality that from day-to-day life, you know? There's no true total escape from pain, because as humans, we go through pain. We lose people. We look at COVID or the racial issues that are going on. Can we escape from that? No. But what we can do is learn to deal with life in a healthier way, so that we no longer have that I want to escape. And if something is helping, you know, in a legal way to make somebody feel better, that's one thing. But if something is deadly and then it's pushing them to the point of death, that's a whole nother thing. So I think the education needs to be there, to where people are really educated on everything that's an option and a resource to help them with their mental health.
Right. So there's more like, because I feel like maybe the opportunity to escape was there before, versus something that makes me feel better. So I don't have to feel like I need to completely escape mentally, because my physical just, there's nothing I can
Yeah,
do.
because I'm still here. Because I'm still, you know what I mean? So you think about it, yeah, because if I escape, I'm still here. And when I wake up, that's still there, that's still there, they're still there, this is still there. So how do I really escape? You know?
You can't. You cannot. You have to make a conscious decision when you are plunging in and out of the reality that you are finding so unpleasant that you are distraught to the point where your coping mechanism is
Yes.
a triggered reaction to go and be numb or just feel better. In other
Yeah.
words, when the feeling better part runs out, okay, now we need to cope.
Yeah.
What would
Right.
happen if you took away everybody's stuff? I mean, that includes coffee and cigarettes now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many people in America's workforce cannot get it together in the morning until after they smoked the coffee and drank a cigarette? Okay, there, now I got it together. All right.
Right.
What if you took it all the way, I mean all the way down to bare aspirin? Guess where you'll find out? No one's well. No one's well.
I like how you stated that.
Okay.
I
And
love that.
if we use that as a point of reference, as a template to work from, then we're really paying attention when we say, this right here might work. You see?
And that's why I say, when it comes to the argument about the different resources in society, whether it's marijuana or pharmaceuticals, I love the fact that we have psychiatrists. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that some medicines work for people. I love the fact that, we're in a different day where people are recognizing that, hey, we have to go back in and change some of the components of these medications because, lithium that was around 30 years ago may work for somebody now, but lithium was actually harsh years ago as well. And then some people that may be the thing that they use still to this day, that helps. But I'm happy that people have the resources that they have in this life of going somewhere and getting the education that they need so that they're knowledgeable and they have more understanding about the resources that are options or resources to them. Education is powerful. And that's the thing that, and I'm not, I don't want anybody out there to think I'm just talking book. No, I'm talking being informed on what your options are and whatever it is that you're seeking, making sure you know what it is and the repercussions of it or the benefits from it. But you need to know. I don't care if it's an antibiotic. You need to know, like, what does this do? Genetically, that was my mother allergic to it? Because when people come into therapy, we probably have more of a history on that individual than maybe not, but maybe than not the medical doctor, but we want to know everything, because everything in an individual's life works together. The way they cope, their experiences as a child. When you talk about triggers, things that are triggers to them, did it have to do with childhood? Did it have to do with adulthood? Did it have to do with a bad breakup? Do you know what I mean? Did it have to do with something you went through and nobody knew you went through? All your experiences, everything from the beginning of when you remember till where you are right now. We need to know, do you have medical issues? There are people walking around, they struggle mentally because they're struggling with physical illnesses. That's just a struggle. That's just the biggest struggle is somebody coming in that say they have a bipolar. If somebody is struggling with cancer or diabetes or whatever it is, that's a struggle too. It creates a mental stress. It creates anxiety. So, and again, like I said, I'm not talking about people that I service as a therapist. I'm talking about in general.
I'm Benito Childs, and you're watching the You Heard It Here First. That's UHIH1ST Media Broadcast and Network Team. Thank you for watching.